Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a question almost everyone has asked themselves, especially around cold and flu season. Can vitamin C really cure a common cold?
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a health claim that's been around for, well, decades, almost like medical folklore. We're going to unpack the science and try to separate fact from fiction here. And hey, before we jump in, if you're finding these deep dives valuable, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the Dashing Health channel. It really helps support our work.
It does, yeah. Keeps us going.
And for those who want to dig even deeper after this, you can find a link below the video to read the full article we've put together.
Absolutely. And this topic, it's a classic example, really, of how a popular idea, even one championed by, a brilliant mind, can just stick around.
Right.
Despite the science kind of moving on. So our mission today is to unpack the real science behind vitamin C and the common cold.
Okay.
We've got a good stack of sources: BBC, Mayo Clinic, National Library of Medicine, plus insights from medical experts. We're here to see what the evidence truly says.
Okay, let's get into it. Where did this idea even come from? That vitamin C could, tackle colds? It feels like it's just always been there.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? But what's really fascinating is that it gained huge traction back in the 1970s.
The 70s?
Yeah, and it was largely thanks to, a towering figure in science, Linus Pauling.
Oh, the Linus Pauling, Nobel Prize winner.
Two-time Nobel Prize winner, yeah. A chemist, an incredible mind in his field. He published a book, Vitamin C and the Common Cold.
Right, I've heard of that.
And he made some really big claims. Predicted it would pretty much eliminate colds, even extend human lifespan by decades.
Wow, a Nobel laureate saying that. That's incredibly compelling. No wonder it stuck. His word must have carried enormous weight.
It absolutely did. Shaped public perception for years. But, in science, even brilliant minds can sometimes get it wrong outside their main field.
So what was the issue with his research specifically? Why did later scientists kind of push back?
Well, you've hit on a really key point: Pauling's optimism. It was mostly based on one small, pretty short randomized study.
Just one study.
Primarily, yeah.
Yeah.
It involved school kids in a very specific setting, a skiing school up in the Swiss Alps.
Okay, kind of specific.
Very specific. And that study did report a big drop, 45% fewer colds, 35% shorter duration for those kids.
That sounds impressive, though.
It does, on the surface.
Yeah.
But as more research came out, lots of scientific bodies looked at it and basically said, hold on. This single small study under these unique conditions, it's just not a strong enough foundation for such huge universal claims.
Right.
And it really raises that important question, doesn't it? Does being an expert in chemistry automatically make you an expert in, say, virology or epidemiology?
That's a great point. It reminds me of something I read in our sources, this idea of Nobel disease. What's that about?
Yeah, Nobel disease. It's a term people sometimes use, maybe a bit informally. It describes this phenomenon where highly accomplished people, like Nobel winners, sometimes step outside their expertise and start promoting ideas in other fields that maybe aren't backed by solid evidence in that field. It's not knocking their original achievements at all.
Of course not.
But it's a caution, right?
Yeah.
Brilliance in one area doesn't always translate everywhere. And Pauling's big claims about vitamin C for colds, for many scientists looking at the broader evidence later, it kind of fell into that category.
I see. It really shows why you need to look critically at all claims, no matter who's making them.
Exactly. Which brings us to the big picture for, well, most of us.
Yeah.
Not kids at a Swiss ski school.
Right, people sitting at home, going to work. You always hear, take vitamin C every day, you won't get a cold. Is there any actual evidence for that? For the general population?
So connecting this to the wider evidence base, the answer for most people is pretty clear, actually. There's a major review, a Cochrane review from 2013.
Cochrane, right? They're like the gold standard for health evidence reviews.
Exactly. They pulled together results from lots of high-quality studies. This one looked at 29 different trials, over 11,000 participants.
11,000? That's a lot of people. What did they find about daily C preventing colds?
They found that regular daily vitamin C supplements had, virtually no effect on preventing common colds in the ordinary population.
No effect. Really?
The incidence of colds just wasn't reduced. Taking it every day didn't mean you got sick less often.
So for most of us listening, popping that vitamin C tablet every morning isn't actually stopping us from catching that sniffle.
That's what the best evidence suggests, yes. It won't prevent you from getting sick the same number of times as someone who isn't taking it. It's not that preventative shield many people think it is.
Okay, wow. That really goes against the grain, doesn't it?
It does. It's a persistent myth.
Okay, so it doesn't prevent them. But what if you do get sick? If you're taking it daily already, does it make the cold less miserable, shorter? That's the other big claim.
Right. And here, the picture is a little bit different, a bit more nuanced. That same big Cochrane analysis did find a modest effect.
Modest.
Yeah, modest but consistent. It seemed to reduce the duration of cold symptoms slightly if you were taking vitamin C regularly before you got sick.
How slightly?
Specifically, about an 8% reduction in duration for adults, and maybe a bit more for kids, around 14%. Some studies looking at 1 to 2 grams a day in children saw duration cut by maybe 18%?
8% for adults. Yeah. Okay, let's make that real. Say my cold usually knocks me out for 5 days. That's what, 120 hours?
Exactly, 120 hours. So an 8% reduction, well, that works out to about 9.6 hours faster recovery.
9 or 10 hours, so instead of 5 full days, I feel better maybe late afternoon on the 5th day.
Something like that, yeah. Bit less than half a day sooner.
And for that, people might be spending, I don't know, $30 a month. $360 a year on supplements. Yeah. That doesn't feel like a great return on investment.
You've hit the nail on the head. For the average person, when you weigh that very small reduction in duration against the cost and hassle, it's not very compelling. And remember, vitamin C is water soluble. Your body can't store large amounts, anything extra. You just pee it out.
So that money is literally going down the toilet.
Pretty much, yeah. Beyond what your body needs for its normal functions, the excess doesn't do much for colds and just gets flushed.
Okay, now here's the one I think really gets people interested. The idea of dosing up. You feel that first tickle, that scratchy throat, and you just start pounding the vitamin C megadoses. Does that work?
The therapeutic dose idea.
Yeah.
Taking a big hit right at the start.
Yeah. Does it nip it in the bud?
Well, the study's looking specifically at that. They're really inconsistent.
Oh.
There was one large trial in adults that did seem to show a benefit from a big 8-gram dose on day 1. And a couple of smaller 5-day trials reported some benefits too.
So there's something there.
Maybe. But many other studies showed absolutely no effect at all. So the evidence is just, well, it's all over the place. There's no strong, consistent support for that emergency megadose approach working reliably.
And is there a downside? Can you take too much besides wasting money?
Yes, definitely. Taking really high doses, generally over 1 gram, maybe 2 grams a day for some people, can cause stomach problems.
Like what?
Like stomach upset, cramps, diarrhea, nausea. It can be quite uncomfortable. And again, your body just gets rid of the excess. Megadosing doesn't build up some kind of super immunity.
Okay. So if the general evidence is so underwhelming, why does this idea persist so strongly? Why do we still hear constantly that vitamin C prevents or cures colds?
That's such a crucial question. And it really gets into how science gets communicated or sometimes miscommunicated.
Right.
The only place where we see a really robust, significant benefit for vitamin C in preventing colds is under very specific circumstances, what scientists call special circumstances or specific subgroups.
Special circumstances, like what does my stressful week count?
Probably not. We're talking about people exposed to brief but really severe periods of physical stress and or consistently cold environments.
Okay, give me examples.
Think marathon runners, ultra marathoners pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. Soldiers doing intense exercises out in the winter cold.
Okay. Extremes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There were 5 trials pulled together, almost 600 people in these kinds of groups. And for them, taking vitamin C regularly, over 200 milligrams a day, actually cut their risk of catching a cold in half.
Halved the risk. Wow. Okay, that is significant.
It is. But look how specific that group is.
So unless you're basically an extreme athlete or maybe a soldier on Arctic maneuvers, or maybe those kids in that Swiss ski school.
Exactly. Those kids were likely under significant physical stress in the cold. That might explain Pauling's initial findings.
So for the rest of us living normal lives, that huge preventative benefit just doesn't apply.
Precisely. And this highlights a real danger in interpreting studies, something called subgroup analysis.
Subgroup analysis?
Yeah, it's where you take a big pile of data and you slice it up into smaller and smaller groups, looking for an effect. Sometimes you find real things, but often you can find patterns just by pure chance.
Like finding a connection that isn't really there.
Exactly. Like those funny examples you see online, the divorce rate in Maine correlating with margarine consumption, or something equally bizarre.
Right, spurious correlations.
Precisely. They look real statistically, but they're meaningless. Finding that vitamin C halved colds in marathon runners is interesting, maybe even true for them, but you can't then claim it works for everyone based on that subgroup. It's a dangerous leap.
So for the vast majority of us, probably not the miracle cure we hoped for. Okay, so if vitamin C isn't the answer for most colds, what actually helps you feel better when you get sick?
Right. Let's talk about what does work. The Mayo Clinic and many other reliable sources are pretty clear on this. There's no cure. Remember, it's a virus.
Yeah.
Antibiotics are useless.
Okay, no magic bullet, so what can you do?
It's mostly about easing the symptoms and helping your body fight. Top of the list, fluids. Drink plenty of water, clear broth. Warm lemon water with honey is great too.
Why fluid?
Helps loosen congestion, prevents dehydration, just makes you feel a bit better overall. Avoid things that dehydrate you, like alcohol, coffee, sugary sodas.
Makes sense. What else?
Rest. Obvious, maybe, but crucial. Your body needs energy to fight the infection. Sleep is key.
Okay, rest and fluids, the classics.
They are. Then, sipping warm liquids, chicken soup, herbal tea that can be really soothing, helps mucus flow. Honey is actually pretty good for coughs.
Just honey on its own.
Yeah, or in tea.
Yeah.
But remember, not for kids under 1 year old because of the botulism risk.
Good point.
Adding moisture to the air can help too. With a cool mist vaporizer or humidifier, eases stuffiness, soothes sore throats. Just keep it clean.
Right, don't want mold. What about specific symptoms like a sore throat or stuffy nose?
For sore throats, gargling with salt water can give temporary relief. Again, probably not for little kids who might swallow it.
Okay.
And saline nasal drops or sprays. Excellent for stuffiness. They just help rinse things out, no medication involved.
And pain or fever?
Over-the-counter pain relievers like acetaminophen or ibuprofen work well for adults. For aches, pains, fever. But, and this is critical, never give aspirin to children or teens.
Because of Ray's syndrome, right?
Exactly. Rare, but incredibly serious. Always check labels. Ask a pharmacist or doctor if unsure.
Got it. So those are the things that help. What about things that definitely don't work besides antibiotics?
Well, as we said, antibiotics are #1 on the don't use list for colds. They fight bacteria, colds, or viruses. Using them just fuels antibiotic resistance.
A huge problem.
It is.
Yeah.
Also, those multi-symptom cold and cough medicines, generally not recommended for kids under 4. The risks often outweigh any potential benefits, which are often minimal anyway.
Even for slightly older kids?
Even for ages 4 to 6, they might not help much and can still have side effects. Always best to talk to a doctor first for kids.
Okay. What about other supplements? We talked vitamin C. Zinc often comes up too. Any better luck there?
Zinc is interesting. Some early studies suggested zinc lozenges or syrup, if you start them right away, within 24 hours of symptoms.
Yeah.
Might shorten the cold slightly, maybe by a day or so.
Might.
Yeah, the studies are really mixed, not consistent. And zinc can have side effects. That metallic taste is common, sometimes nausea. And importantly, the FDA warns against using zinc nasal sprays or gels because there have been reports of people permanently losing their sense of smell.
Wow. Okay. That's serious.
It is. So with zinc, the evidence is shaky. There are side effects and potential serious risks with nasal forms. Definitely talk to your doc before trying it.
So it really seems the best approach isn't some miracle pill, but just sensible self-care.
That's exactly it. It's common sense, good supportive care, rest, fluids, managing symptoms, and understanding what the science actually supports and what it doesn't.
Right.
The appeal of a simple fix like vitamin C is strong, it's easy to understand, but the evidence just isn't there for most people in normal circumstances. The real power is helping your own body heal.
This whole deep dive, it really makes you pause and think about how these medical myths get started and just stick around for generations sometimes.
Absolutely.
Even when the data clearly points elsewhere. It really underscores how vital it is to look beyond the headlines, beyond the, celebrity endorsements or what your neighbor tells you, and try to understand the actual research. When you hear a health claim now, maybe about the next miracle cure, what stands out to you about why these ideas spread so easily and become so ingrained even without strong proof? What should we be thinking about?